Welcome to Evilive, the live media commentary show that answers the question, how are there so many massive tunnels underneath the Turner's home, but no one's ever seen them before? Subscribe if you're new to the channel because today we are reviewing Servant Season 4, Episode 8, Tunnels, and my initial thoughts are, we're back! Finally! We're back! I can't believe, I didn't think they would be able to sort of round the bend. But it turns out you get a good director, you get a good writer, and you get Shyamalan's family out of the mix, and they actually do a great job at this series. Oh, and this episode was so good. This episode was like all of the other great episodes, which there are a plethora of, plus horror, which that's my bread and butter. That's how I roll. This is the perfect episode for me, and I love it desperately. Okay, so there's just some inconsistencies, so we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about it a little bit, but just initial thoughts, I feel good, and we're happy. We're back. Okay, this is directed by... All right. Now I feel like I'm being punked. Nimrod Untal? All right, sorry, that's an unfortunate name. Nimrod. But you did a great job. So, great directing. It was written by Laura Marks. Fantastic job writing this episode. I'm super stoked that you did it and not those other people. Okay, this premiered this past Friday, March 3rd. And the synopsis is like this. They have to, Sean and Julian have to get Leanne into the tunnels at 2 a.m. in the morning so that this cult can then capture her yet again. They've tried it so many different times. But this could be the final chance, right? That's all they have to do. The complication is that there's this massive storm that the news is calling the storm of the century that's flooding the sewers, causing rats to come out and scare poor TV news reporters. We have this very sort of ridiculous scene. We see Sean wheeling in the baby Jericho's crib into Dorothy's and ostensibly his room, even though he moved out a little while ago, but their, joint family room in order to make sure that Leanne doesn't have any direct access to Jericho anymore. Purportedly to then swap him out with a baby doll to torture them, but we don't really know if that was, what they're still believing or not. At this point, it does seem like Sean and Julian do actively believe that she's just a deranged girl, like they were told before, which flies in the face of everything they've seen and experienced. But again, bad writing forces them to make bad decisions. So I don't blame the characters. I blame Shyamalan's daughter. So we're past that. I'm not entirely past it personally, but here's the deal. I get you want to have your daughter follow in your footsteps, and she shows an interest in your industry. She wants to write and she wants to direct. Okay. Maybe start her out on some independent shit before you start throwing her into the series. Because you can see that every time that she has not been involved writing or directing, the show has been amazing. The 2 or 3 times she has been involved, it's pure garbage. I'm glad you learned your lesson. Let's not retread old ground. It bothers me. It's the worst case of just, I don't know, self-indulgence, pride. It's disgusting is what it is. But this episode fixed all of that. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man? Maybe have your daughter write and direct the middle of season 2, not in the series finale. Yeah, great point. When you're testing the water out, you want them to stretch their legs in the early seasons because you don't really know if the show has teeth yet. Give them a shot there. Or again, like I had suggested, just let them do independent shit until they actually prove that they have, stuff, to offer an audience. Okay, anyway. So there's this massive storm going on. Sean and Julian are trying to get Leanne down into the tunnels at 2 in the morning so that the cult can capture her finally. And ostensibly they can end all of their problems in this one evening, in this one event. Leanne goes up to what is that? It's a sunroof, I guess. She opens the sunroof and she's shouting out of the storm. Is that the best you got? Lightning's crashing behind her and she's laughing in the face of God is really what she's sort of, striking back at, because that's the God that this cult worships, and that's who she sort of has found herself being in stark opposition of. Now, there is a moment later in this episode where Uncle, the priest of this cult, is talking to Leanne when they do actually get her down in the tunnels, and he's saying that we know what you are, you know what you are, you have truly fallen. It's suggested maybe she has like somehow died and come back as this possessed entity, or like that was like put out as a suggestion in this episode. But we as an audience still have no idea what she is. We know has supernatural powers. We know she is very capable of defending herself, albeit crudely. She's not like a Jackie Chan or something, which would be kind of cool to watch, but still like way out of character. And so, we're sort of believing this idea that the cult believes she is something powerful. The family apparently no longer believes that because they listen to the cult, which again, shit writing. But they still sort of move as if they think she is. And then we throw in this storm, and this is where my sort of point of contention starts to fall apart. The assumption presented to us by Leanne going up to the sunroof, shouting out at the storm, "Is this the best you got?" is that she is not in control of the storm, that God or the cult is creating the storm in order to then isolate Leanne so that she can then be captured. That's how I interpreted it. And so if Leanne is acting against the storm, one, and then the homeless people come to the back door saying, "Look, we can't stay in the park and protect you anymore. This storm is way too bad." And Leanne says, "If the storm doesn't want you, go ahead and leave." And so she becomes isolated by the storm from her protection. So that's 2 strikes. The storm is against Leanne. But then we get a scene after the sort of kidnapping has been foibled. Is that the proper use of that word? I don't know. Where Sean grabs a little pruning knife out of his charcuterie board, and he goes as if he's going to stand up to Leanne, and then the storm breaks through his window, forcing him to stab himself in the chest with this little pruning knife. So that makes the suggestion that Leanne was then in control of the storm. So which is it? Either she's in control of it or she's in opposition to it. You don't get both. And then you can't have her capitalize on the storm when it's convenient, but be in opposition to it when it's inconvenient. Consistency is important here. Now, they've never pretended to present us with any sort of rules that Leanne has to follow. Sometimes she's in control of animals. Sometimes she's not. Sometimes she can control, sort of like psychic, like ripping power lines down with her mind. And other times she's completely at the mercy of whatever. So we don't really understand what rules are there. And I'm not entirely convinced that they have them written down as showrunners. I'm not sure they even know. But that's why it's so important to do your post-production work, to nail down information like this, especially if you're having different writers and different directors coming in to stretch their legs in this playground. At least have a sort of tongue-in-cheek, a Bible that they can then refer to saying, okay, this is who Leanne is. This is what she can and cannot do. These are situations that are for and against her. So if you're going to write, adhere to these rules. It's sort of up in the air every single episode. So we don't really know. That's a bit of frustration for me as a viewer. I like rules. If it's Damien in The Omen, we know that Satan is on his side, and so animals are going to protect him. He's going to have some supernatural ability to influence events, and the world is upsetting, but understandable. With Leanne, it's just sort of willy-nilly all over the place, and that's it presents inconsistency and discord for the viewer. And that's something you want to avoid for any long term, especially in the final episodes of the final season of a show's lifetime. Present us with some sort of stability here. So they finally capture Leanne, and take her down. They like tie her up, bound and gagged her, bring her down to this cult people who are in this massive tunnel, underground tunnel complex right under their fucking home that no one knew about, which again, come on. Come on. We lived the first 3 seasons realizing how big this home actually is. And now we realize it's not just the home that's massive and huge, which they, sort of uncovered new aspects of it each season. Now there's a whole underground complex. You tell me that tunnel system was used in an underground railroad, I'll accept it. You tell me that some girl who ran away from her pageantry family to emulate life with a TV news reporter knew about this, I call bullshit. You have to give us a reason why it exists. You cannot just say, just because. We're adults. We have rational minds. We objectively analyze what you present to us, and it doesn't make sense. So make it make sense. Give us a reason to suspend disbelief, because if you don't, we're forced to come up with our own reasons, and the best reason I can come up with is lazy writing. You don't give me a reason, I don't have a reason. All right, so you easily buy into the weirdest of premises, but then you get annoyed when shows contradict their own rules that they created. I 100% agree with you there. It's not enough to bother me because, again, I do think this episode went right back on track with some of the greatest aspects of this series, and I'm very, very happy that it finally got here, especially after the past 3 episodes. But again, we're in the home stretch. You should be nailing every single episode because you have 3 seasons to reflect back on in progression. This isn't a surprise. You should present us with answers at some point. So they capture her, and they have this really wonderful back and forth between Leanne and her uncle, the cult leader. And you get to see some genuine acting chops. Now, I've seen this actor in other things before. Let me see if I have a note on his name. Oh, please let me. So it's Boris McGiver, or MacGyver. Oh, I hope it's MacGyver. It's probably McGiver. He's Uncle George. Boris, I've seen him in some other roles in the series called Evil. He plays a sort of Monsignor, like a high-up Catholic priest. And he's great. Great actor. Never seen him in a level of this acting, though. He was openly weeping and bearing his soul and desires to Leanne to kill herself because no other mortal can seemingly kill her. Only she can do it. And he's like, I will help you. I will walk you through it. Please let me help you. You can tell this is a man at the end of his ropes with no more hope. He is bearing his soul to this seemingly infernal entity, begging it to let the Turners find happiness that they deserve. And her mere presence is torturing them. He's doing everything he can to convince her to kill herself because they clearly can't do it. And then she does what every great horror film situation would ever do. He pulls out this, like literally over a fire, this blade that's glowing hot, hands it to the murderer and says, take your own eyes out. God will forgive you for your wickedness. But we as an audience already know she has fully accepted her wickedness and she is celebrating it. On a personal note, I have to say, I love that. I love it when people embrace their true selves. The whole dichotomy between good and evil, I think, is all bullshit. And so, as long as you're not hurting anyone, embrace your own weirdness. Embrace what makes you you, regardless of how other people perceive it. I have a hard time doing that myself, but I love it when I see it. And so, it's just a concept that I'm 100% behind in concept. So when she does that and she says wicked, I'm not wicked or something to that effect. I just watched it. I don't remember the line. She then plunges this burning hot dagger up into his chin, into his brain, and he's like a jack-o'-lantern glowing out of the mouth, almost as if it's coming in the eyes too. You're just sort of getting this shocking moment of just like, it's pure just shock and awe. Like that, and that's really all you can. It's not a jump scare. It's just like, oh, I can't believe they actually did that. Holy shit! Moment. Brilliant. This is the stuff I live for. So she jabs it up into his neck. The two people behind him are just shocked and stunned. She rips it out and then just slowly, like she's the shadow from, or the shape, I'm sorry, the shape from Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, because it wasn't Michael Myers originally, it was the shape. As if she's the shape, slowly walks into the hall where they ran into, and you just hear them screaming on the other end, and you know what's happening. You don't even have to see it to still feel the horror permeating every ounce of your being, and it's glorious. Oh, this is Leanne Unleashed in the best of ways. I am so behind it. She murders those two poor innocent cultists. Can you be innocent and a cultist? I mean, if you're stupid enough to fall into the cult trap, I kind of feel like you kind of deserve whatever's coming, you know? Even if it's Leanne with a burning hot knife. You kind of deserve it. Stay away from cults, people. Think for yourself. So she comes back out, and of course, she's coming up to Julian and Sean, who literally handed her over to those people, bound and gagged. And they know she's coming. And there's this wonderful moment where you're hearing the screams from Sean and Julian's side. They're like, wait a second, what's going on? And you hear the footsteps, and there's a slow, impending terror coming in on you. And you're just like, oh, they're going to die. So that's when Sean then grabs a little pruning knife as if he's going to fend her off with that. And he's going to like carve a rose in her fucking eyeball or something. I don't know. Ridiculous. And then, yeah, the scene was pretty great, and the head on a stick could be a new delicacy. First of all, in earlier seasons, everyone ate the embryo of Jericho because Sean added it to his little tower of like cream puffs. And they all ate the afterbirth of Jericho. So they're not against doing some really weird, crazy, gross food stuff in this. They just sort of haven't done it yet in this series because it's sort of gone crazy. But I love that they sort of added that in, and your comment sort of reminded me of that, Chris. Thanks. So Leanne's coming up, and Sean, of course, the storm breaks open the window as if it's on behalf of Leanne, which again is the inconsistency that bothered me. But it's stuck in his chest. He's sitting there like sort of gasping in shock. He doesn't know if it got to a heart because, again, it's just a pruning knife. It's not that long. Not a pruning, but a paring knife. And Julian is like, look, just let me go get my phone. I need to call 911 for him. We're terribly sorry what we did. Just let me get my phone. She doesn't say shit. She just steps back. Julian goes to go get his phone, and she pushes him down the stairs. That's it. And then he, terrified, anyone would be, that she's going to come in after him because she's, again, the shape from Halloween. He like starts backing up, starts walking over the sort of plank that's in a sort of a sewage floor breakthrough that they have been suffering in their home. And of course, the flooding is making the water get higher. Falls off of that, a wine cellar, which broke my heart, falls on top of him and sort of traps him for a little while. So he seems to be drowning or dying, you know, as far as we're concerned in the moment. And then Leanne walks over to Sean, takes the knife out of his chest, and you get a scream. I defy you to try to repeat. This is the greatest of horror screams. I've heard it before. It's this primal, like sort of thing, but it's like this multi-dimensional layered scream of multiple voices on top of each other after the initial cry out from Sean. And it is something that I've heard from like Prophecy. They had the same scream, but it's just this great, deep, guttural, sort of multi-vocal, you know, just like primal scream of pain that he sort of lets out, which just fit the moment perfectly. Because again, we're sort of in the Omen territory now, where she is infernally powered at some level, and she's in total control of herself at this moment, and it's beautiful to watch. She tells him, oh my gosh, what does she tell him? Let me see if I have a note for that. I can't even remember what she said. Basically, he's begging for help. She calls calmly 911, and again, totally calm and in control. I need 2 ambulances. This is the address, and that's it. So the ambulances come, take Julian away from the basement, and all the while, Dorothy is up in the top bedroom freaking out. Like, she can hear all of this happening down below. She's doing her best to crawl and stuff. I'm going to get to a moment between her and Dorothy in a second, but she's doing everything she can. So she's got probably the worst possible scenario running through her head at this moment. Leanne already pushed Dorothy off of her staircase and broke her damn back. So we know what Leanne is capable of, even to people that she supposedly says she wants to love and be in the family of. So as far as Dorothy's concerned, who knows what madness Leanne is enacting downstairs with Sean and Julian, right? And I don't even think Dorothy fully knew about the abduction that night. I'm not entirely sure that it was ever even brought up, like she was brought into it at all. So before Sean is taken out by the paramedics, Leanne is just standing next to him and she's like, I will never let you back in this house. And then he's taken away. She is in absolute control. First of all, she's fully self-actualized at this moment. This is Leanne in control, knowing who and what she is, knowing the limits of her powers, and dominating everyone. So, ultimate evil, in power, in control, 100%. Everyone else is just shock and awe, witnessing it and at the mercy of it. And it's brilliant to watch. So, Leanne then slowly walks up to where Dorothy is. And I'm going to get to their interaction here in just a second, because I want to talk about an interaction at the beginning of the episode before they abducted her. Because the storm is raging outside. It's just pounding around. Dorothy is slowly healing, and she sort of takes this walker and goes over to the where Jericho's room is, and she finds Leanne out of her peripheral vision just sort of sitting there because, again, Sean took Jericho out, which was Leanne's job, to watch after Jericho. And ostensibly her gift to the family, that Faustian bargain that they all made that was referenced at the beginning of this chapter. Episode, sorry. So she walks in, sees the storm coming through the open window, sees Leanne sitting there. She goes and closes it, and then she tells Leanne to get a rag to clean up all the water that she was just watching. She knows why Leanne is depressed sitting on the floor. Her ward, Jericho, is not available for her to watch. Her entire family, Sean, Julian, first of all, she's sleeping with Julian, and he doesn't even trust her. Sean, Julian, and Dorothy all don't like Leanne anymore. And she's in a position of, this is what I've fought for. This is what I've sought after. This is the only thing in my life I've ever wanted, is a loving family unit to be a part of, and I can't even have that. So this, I think, is a pivotal moment where she's looking up at Dorothy saying, why don't you love me? Why can't you like me? I do everything I can to make you happy. And Dorothy looks down, she's like, that's not your job to make me happy. It's never been your job. And I think that moment of Leanne realizing she will never get what she wants, that then allows her to shake free any last bits of compassion for the Turners and go full self-actualized of whatever that is. I don't know if she's a demon. I don't know if she's possessed. I don't know if she's a fallen angel. I don't know what she is. But whatever it is, it finally sunk in because of that moment for me. It was just her just thinking to herself, like, fuck, I'm alone. I'm the only thing I have left. They're actively trying to kill me. I need to take control. And boy, does she, in a big bad way. So we cut back to the very end of this show where Dorothy is sort of, between the bars of the railing going down the stairs, and Leanne slowly walks up after Sean and Julian have been taken away by the ambulance. And she sits down. She's like, what did you do? She's like, I didn't do anything. I haven't done anything. Because from Leanne's perspective, all she's ever tried to do was be a part of this family. Yes, she doesn't fully understand who and what she was until now. And so she brings a fair amount of turbulence with her. Understandably, everyone has baggage. This family has outright rejected her at this point. We know that she is a monster. She knows and has accepted that she's a monster. And now Dorothy is alone with Jericho, nearly paraplegic, with Leanne in the house. And that's the end of the episode. Oh my gosh. So we have 2 episodes left, I think. What is this? This is episode 8. We have 2 episodes left. At some point in these last 2 episodes, Leanne has to tell Dorothy, Jericho is not your son. You killed your son. That has to happen. We have to get Dorothy fully going through the madness and going to acceptance of the fact that she killed her son, and she was so distraught and terrified and hurt by that act that she convinced herself that this other baby was hers. Now, what happens after that? I would like to know exactly what Leanne is. Like that's what's really been sort of like itching at me since this show began. I need to know as a viewer. I need those answers. If you don't give me those answers, I'm going to be upset. But I'm not going to hate you for it. I don't need everything delivered, on a platter to me. I like a little conjecture. I like a little mystery, even if it drives me insane through the course of it. So I don't need that. But yeah, it wasn't quite the Wilhelm scream, but definitely equivalent in familiarity anyway. So there's going to be that terror of her realizing what she did. Hopefully we get to learn a little bit of what Leanne is, but then we're going to get the great turbulence of, I say that word a lot, of Sean and Julian trying to get back into the household. And how is Leanne going to prevent them? I think at this point, it's safe to say that the church is gone. The cult members are not going to come back and try to get her anymore. At this point, it is Leanne and the Turners, full stop. It is only those 2 entities, and everything else is sort of superfluous. You don't need it anymore. It's not going to add anything to the story. We have 2 episodes left to resolve a whole lot. And I can't wait for it. So my favorite aspect, my favorite part of this episode was Leanne going full monstrous, full the shape. Jabbing that knife into her uncle's face, right up through his chin. I screamed. Not in like a terrified, whatever way, but as like I'm cheering her on. Like, oh my gosh, yes! I was excited. I love seeing that moment of her just... It's on, Oh, it's so good. So that was my favorite. My least favorite is the inconsistency with whether or not Leanne was in charge of the storm. It led me to believe she wasn't, and then it seemed to play into her hands. You can't go both ways. It's one or the other. Make up your mind, people. What I want to see next, I've already alluded to, I want to know what Leanne is. More than even Dorothy accepting that she killed her baby. More than them wrapping their brain around the fact that they've been fostering someone else's child, possibly Leanne's. More than the fact that Leanne might be, I don't know, she might kill everyone. I don't know. I just want to know what she is. You tell me she's an escaped mental patient, I'll believe it. You tell me she's a fucking fallen angel that's possessed a body. I'll believe it. Whatever it is, I'll believe it. You just tell me so I can stop guessing. Because I desperately want to know. Now, if you don't tell me, that's okay too. It'll just make me a little more insane. I don't have a lot more road to travel down that path, but I do have a little bit of mileage in me. Fallen Angel would be dope. I think that would be a great ending. I've been watching a lot of the Prophecy series, though, so it's sort of in the back of my head. So... And I want to run that Innomine game. And so it's just been this perpetual, what's the story I can tell to make it really engaging and fun for people who may not be as into it as I am. And so it's always been one of those things that is sort of like noodling in the back of my mind. But if that's not it, that's okay too. I'll accept demonic possession. I'll accept she's just like a witch. I love witches. I'm a big fan of witches. Anything like that. Old puritanical witches. Those are the witches I love. The sort of the old crone in the woods, or the young girl that gets seduced by the devil to become this sort of forest witch. I love that stuff. That's like the film The Witch is my bread and butter, that type of stuff. But anyway, this was a brilliant return to form for Servant. I am so very happy they got there finally after those shit episodes that they foisted on us. And because of that, I can't help. I don't even have a choice. You got to get 5 out of 5 Evil Eyes. You earned it. Take it. You give me more episodes like this, and I will buy whatever you're selling. You put out t-shirts, you put out bracelets, you put out knee-high socks. I will buy them with Servant on them because you did what I wanted you to do, and that is tell a great story and get rid of all the bullshit. Just give me straight horror thriller. Yes, I loved it. So if Leanne pulls her face off, it's Christopher Walken. Sean, what are you? I don't know. I can't do it. Walken. I wish I could do a Walken. I can't. Anyway, you gotta watch this show if you're not watching it. Like, it's at the end. First of all, go back and watch all the seasons from the very first one to this fourth one. You'll get a much better appreciation for this series if you do that. But again, I want to see these actors more. Like, first of all, Dorothy, Lauren Ambrose, I was first introduced to her in 6 Feet Under, which is a brilliant HBO series from, like, I don't know, like 2004 or something like that. 2005. It's a great series, 6 Feet Under. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely go do it. But that's where I first was become aware of her. She has just killed it as Dorothy in this series. She's brilliant and she's beautiful and her hair is amazing. It's so lush. I even made that comment like a weirdo. I was like, look how lush her hair is. What the fuck does she do? Like, it's great. The costume design of this show is way too good for what this show is. Like, they've got some real heavy hitting talent in this show. And aside from the last 3 episodes, everything. Oh, first of all, I do have to note that this episode was very, very dark. I think typically the show is dark, but this episode was very dark. And it takes a very bold and daring director and cinematographer to go that dark with a show, because it forces you as a viewer to either have a place where you can watch it in total blackness or wait until it's evening, which is what I do. Wait until it's night so that you can watch it, so you can see every single little bit, because the way that they're using natural lighting, and that is dim, but it provides the opportunity for true drama through shadow, through light. It's as if we were watching old Renaissance paintings come to life. It's beautiful. And if you're an artist or if you just appreciate art, you can't help but just be stunned by the look of this show. Nothing else compares to it. Nothing. It really, every single time, I just have to sit back and just sit in awe of how beautiful it is. And I don't know if people actually care or notice or appreciate it, but I wish they did, because this show takes chances that others would never take a chance. And I think it's because it's on Apple Plus and no one watches Apple. And so everyone's just like, do your thing. Like, no one's watching this, so you just do whatever you want. We don't care. Just make content for us. I think that's what Apple says. Anyway, I love this episode. I hope you loved it too. And I can't wait for these last 2. As long as Shyamalan's family stays the fuck away from it, they will knock it out of the park, and it's going to be great. So let me know what you think of this episode. Did it stand up to expectations? Am I blowing it up too much? Is it just not as good as I'm making it out to be? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for tuning in live. Really do appreciate your time and attention. Always remember that evil spelled backwards is live. So get out there. And maybe not as much as Leanne, but at least in the vein of Leanne. Be evil.